Hello, and welcome to the first ever Asian AV Club What to Watch pod, where I invite a fellow journalist with opinions on movies and television shows that are out at the moment, and also throw in some tips of titles that should be on your radar for the next few weeks. Now, when I was planting the seed for this show, I had a wish list of people that I really wanted to collaborate with, and from day one, my first ever guest, number one on my list was always this person who I'm talking to right now. And I'm talking about the creator of the Projector on Substack and basically the voice of all things culture in New Zealand, Lady Kate Rodger. I just want you to...
Stevie, could you just be beside my bed every morning to give me that kind of pep talk? Just
of course.
I launch myself out.
Yeah.
Oh, you are such a darling. Do you know, what is it? Is it 15 years?
Oh my gosh.
You trawled me in a meeting room.
Yes, it's true.
It's like you had this amazing way of just bringing all the lost souls at big international junkets into your orbit, and being your friend has just been one of the most delicious things in the last 15 years.
I thank you for saying that. One of the beautiful things that I knew that we were mates is because I knew you were a fellow, like, as glamorous as you can be, you're also deep down, you're a nerd. And I love that. And no matter how well you can clean up, deep down inside you will geek out on the things that you will geek out on. And I'm kind of glad that we're tapping into that a little bit in this podcast.
Right.
But they're just, the two of us have gone through so many weird adventures together. It's just like we travel around the world. Back in the day when there was money for junkets, which is basically back in the day where they would fly journalists around the world to like attend and do 5 minutes with a celebrity and then get the hell out of there. And then the rest of the time we're just a bunch of kids like running around just like, what do we do now? What are we going to eat? What are we going to do? And so in the process, you kind of like bond pretty quickly. And the experiences, I mean, some of my best friends have come out of this bizarre world that like doesn't exist for the younger generation anymore. And I feel bad that it doesn't, but you know what?
Same. But it's interesting you say that, because I have to live vicariously through you, because you've just been to Cannes. And the only I could experience Cannes was to, on my phone, on my laptop, and you always deliver, as to, Princess Raya, our other lovely friend. Yes. I can see you all and see what you're up to there, see what you're watching, what junkets you're doing, and what films you're watching. And when I cast my mind back to the 2 times I did Cannes, and I could not have done them without your guidance, even just where to stay and what to do. But you were the one getting me up at 6 a.m. to make sure I was standing in the right queue for films. And we'd watch 3 or 4 films a day once the junkets had died down. And to this day, that 2 chunks of 10 days for my cinematic little soul are just the most extraordinary things and extraordinary experiences. If it's you're sitting in the sand interviewing Ryan Gosling 1 minute, or you're the captive Sirat and doing the entire cast of Wall Street the next minute. The whole thing is insanity. And thank you once again for covering it for me this year. Did you have a blast?
I think the insanity word really sticks to the experience right now. I mean, it is my official 20th Cannes, and I don't look at, but like, it is true. It's insane thinking about how green I was when I first went to what it feels like now. And I think this is going to sound bad, but with age, it's a lot more tiring to kind of do this. It's a marathon, and I am not healthy enough to do a marathon, and so that is the craziest thing. I mean, I think for people who don't really understand, they think all they see is the red carpets and the glamour and stuff like that. But, besides watching as many films as you possibly can, like these days, at least for me, my part of my education is understanding, like, meeting with distributors and sales agents and kind of understanding like what kind of films they're buying, which also tips you of the movies that maybe you should be kind of keeping an eye out for in the next couple of months. A lot of the films that are in competition are looking for sales deals. They don't have distributors globally, and so a good premiere is a good thing for them in order for them to like sell. And so what it's been an amazing year, because now I don't know if you heard about this studio called Neon, this little studio called Neon.
That wins every Palme d'Or every year. You mean that little studio?
Yeah, well, once again, they're like 4th year running. They got their Palme d'Or film called The Simple Accident by Jafar Benahi, and last year, they had Andor, which then went on to win Best Picture at the Oscars. So all eyes were on Neon this year to see like what other films they were going to pick up. And not only did they have the Palme d'Or, they also had the Grand Prix winner Joaquin Trier's Sentimental Value and the jury prize winner Sirat by Spanish director Oliver Lux, all on their slate. And they have so many movies this year. And so I think Oscar season is going to be a neon season again, and I think it's crazy, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I wanted to tell you, like
Yes.
like what movies I kind of liked, and
Yes,
and
please. Yes, please.
now, I mentioned Sirat and Sentimental Value, and they actually ranked as two of my fave films, not only of Cannes, but of the year. And so I'm just going to put that out there as like a bold statement that for you can kind of like put on your radar. When you see it, I can't wait for you to tell me what you think. For Sirat, it's actually this Spanish director named Oliver Lax, very handsome man with long Fabio-esque hair. I saw him and I was just like, what is this?
Okay, that
And
is such a Stevie observation to make. Hey, and I think that the trailer for Sirat has just landed because I just
yes.
watched it last night, so I got a little bit of taste of the vibe. But what is it even about?
I feel like the less you know about the film, the better. And it's one of
Yeah.
those things where I had a friend who said, keep an eye out for this filmmaker. I saw this and you should check it out. So I went in there and all I knew was it was about a father who takes a son to look for his missing daughter, who's a big fan of outdoor raves. So think kind of like Burning Man meets a little bit of Mad Max, if that's kind of a spoiler of sorts. And
Okay.
they go on this road trip. And I mean, can anything good come from a
No.
father taking his young child to go on this world that is beyond anything? So that's kind of the only thing I feel like you should go into. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to watch it, and the first hour you're going to be like, "What the hell, Stephen? Why would you think this is the?" And then something happens, and then from then onwards, it's like Sirat, Sirat. So like, I can't stop thinking about this movie. So that's why I think it's one of my favorite films of the year. It's
Oh, I read a review out of Cannes, and the idea of it that it feels like not that that notion of two separate films, but then you're alluding to something happening and then everything kind of changing, but that it almost pushes the boundaries of what you think narrative cinematic form should even be, was the sense from this review. Would that be
it's it's a real adventure, and as an audience I think even we're just like, what, and then from
yeah,
then onwards it's just like, all right, let's go with it, because
yeah.
obviously he's going to stick with it. Joaquin Trier, who did this gorgeous film a couple years called The Worst Person in the World, gorgeous. He's brought his latest film Sentimental Value, and once again reuniting with Renate Riencev, who was the lead in that last film. And he's so good at telling stories about family, and in this one, she plays a theater actress, kind of celebrated, and she realizes that her estranged father, who's also a very famous film director, he's making a movie about his estranged relationship with a daughter. And she's like, what? And so yeah, exactly. And it doesn't ask for permission and just kind of goes ahead and makes this film with a Hollywood actress played by Elle Fanning. And so that's kind of sets it up, and I feel like that is enough for you to kind of go into this movie. Tears are shed, and it's just kind of gorgeous. He's so good at little scenes that like mean so much more than they are, and it just kind of, I don't know. I find myself really like drawn to his way of storytelling and his natural kind of storytelling. It's just beautiful, beautiful stuff. And so, again, this is a big front runner for maybe potential best foreign film of the year. And I mean, again, Neon's got it. Speaking of Skarsgård, Stellan's son Alexander. I'm just gonna. He plays an alpha leather daddy.
It's so weird that you would like this film.
I know, right? And it's raunchy and weirdly tender BDSM. I can't even call it a rom-com, but there's something in that relationship that's kind of weirdly interesting, and it surprisingly is one of the most crowd-pleasing movies of the festival.
Yeah.
Like everybody that's seen it like really enjoyed it, but again, it's a hard 18 if you want, like it's just one of those movies where you're just like, but it's great. I loved it. It's called Pillion. Oh my gosh.
Rom-com. It's pretty funny. You found it funny.
I found it. I smiled. I smiled in multiple scenes, and I was like, "All right, well, I mean, define funny at Cannes. Like
Yeah, of course.
joy is not really on the market for a
It's
lot
a
of these.
joy.
Yeah.
It can.
So
It's usually
this is the equivalent of a rom-com that I got for
okay. I
there's
love
an
that. So Stellan, his dad's in Sentimental Value, right?
yes,
Yeah,
Daddy's
and
in
then you've
Sentimental
got
Value.
Alexander
Alexander plays a daddy
Italy.
in
Different kind of daddy,
a
I'm
different
thinking.
daddy in Pillion.
I love it.
And then there's another discovery. I mean, Spain really stepped up this year.
Hmm.
So there's a director named Carla Simon, which I've never heard of before, but apparently she's been making these films. It's a third film in a series of semi-autobiographical journey of basically the true story is her parents died of AIDS in the 80s, and she never knew them. And so the first film of her trilogy is about her uncle and aunt taking her in as a basically orphan, and then the second film is about her going to meet her mother's family in the rural parts of Spain. And now the third part, called Romeria, is about her going to her father's family, who's like wealthy and lives in the coastal side of Spain also. And so it's just a real quiet film about
Hmm.
trying to understand where she comes from,
Good. Yeah.
especially knowing full well that like it comes from a place of tragedy. And so who is that person, and like what kind of stories can she tell, because obviously this character is also a filmmaker. And so i I love this movie. And like there was, when you cry and you feel your whole body kind of
Yeah.
like,
I've
yeah,
sat next to you and you've had one of those cries, so I do.
Sentimental was one where I feel like I can control a little bit. This film, I don't know if I thought too much about it, I might have been in a corner and just lost myself for a second,
Right.
because it was just it was painful to watch this girl like kind of understand herself. And it's heartbreaking and it's dreamy. That's the other beautiful. It's a beautiful movie, and it's extremely lonely, and like all of these feelings like packed in this film, and I
Oh, it
just
sounds beautiful.
it's gorgeous,
You
and
need to have seen the other two,
I don't.
Stevie.
I never saw the other two movies, so
Right.
therefore, for me to, so now I want to go back and I want to know
Yeah.
more about this woman, because I think she's just done a really good service to herself, and kind of,
And to
when
us as an audience.
exactly. And so that to me is just it's gorgeous. So Romeria is the film and Carla Simon is the director. I love this woman. The last one I want to talk about is for me it's the most original movie of Cannes. It's also the most art house film from this director from China called Bigan, and
Uh-huh.
he's famous because a couple years ago he was also in the competition. He did a movie called Long Day's Journey into Night where it ended a 50-minute sequence, one shot. On IMAX, so all of a sudden, and 3D. So at some point, a sign comes up while you're watching, and they're like, "Please put on your 3D glasses now." And then we're all like, like put it on, and the whole thing is a one-shot masterpiece. And
Okay.
so he's back again, and he's got a new film called Resurrection. Again, I can't tell you the plot line of his movies.
Does it matter?
It almost doesn't matter. All I do know is that this is a celebration of all his influences growing up watching. He's a self-taught filmmaker, so he didn't go to film school. He doesn't know anything about like tech, but he just loves cinema. And the way this movie is set up is like every section of it is a real celebration of the things that like he was inspired by. And it's so cool. Like I just don't know how to describe. To me, he really is our next art house like director, like the next generation. And I just think that if you don't know Began, now is a good time to kind of like understand this guy a little bit. He's next level, and I mean, he got a special award at Cannes. So they
So they're
waited.
recognizing.
Not only that, they waited that last slot. So they had all these slots, and there was one slot waiting, and they didn't announce until finally Began was like, "I'm ready to give you my film," and they're like, it's yours. And like they waited for him to like, and they obviously had seen a rough cut of this movie and they were ready for it to kind of show up. And when the movie came out, the reviews were so positive, but everybody was like, we don't understand the movie at all. Like, it's just one of those movies. Beautiful, but and I just think if it shows in an art house at a festival, go see it. You're
Yeah.
gonna and on the biggest screen possible. It's just one of those, it's like it's a cinematic kind of experience. And I think Began is we just don't have a lot of those filmmakers and people who are able to make these movies now. So I think that's like a positive now. And so this year's slate was really solid, and it
Yeah.
really was one of those things where like every movie you saw, like that was pretty good. Normally, there's like a couple where you're like, oh my gosh, like what, you know. But like seriously, every single movie that came out was pretty decent, and I think this is a really surprising year because again, with this conversation about like the death of cinema and like where who's going to watch these movies,
Yeah.
somebody's putting money to make these films right now, and so
Yeah.
as long as they continue to do this, I mean, cinema will still be alive and there's still going to be opportunities for us to experience something different. That's the other thing, different. It's not your status quo. Even your Dardenne brothers, who you think always make the same movie, different film, loved it, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so they're all testing themselves a little bit. And it's quite exciting that Cannes was a good like kickoff point for a lot of these movies to be shown and kind of prove that there's still people are challenging themselves still, which is so gorgeous. I just think that's just one of those things where you just have to celebrate, whether you understand these films or not. It's there, so
100% agree. You've just given me this weird Polaroid flashback where you sent me to see a film and I went to the wrong place and queued for 2 hours to see a film. And it was basically two guys dragging the coffin of their dead father through flood waters for 2 hours. And I still have no clue what the film was, what the hell it was supposed to be. But honestly, the visceral kind of memory I have of seeing it will never leave me. I will have forgotten 1,000 other films, but I'll never, well, mostly confusion going, I'm sure I was in for a romance and nothing romantic. Often. Anyway, that was your fault, and I love you for it. So thank you. Hey, speaking of Cannes, Tom obviously knows how to please a crowd and entertain the quartet. And having Tom Cruise premiere a Mission Impossible is always a great way to kick off the opening weekend. Was it kind of manic and kind of crazy? And have you seen the film?
I've seen the film. Actually, let's get into movies that
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
seen actually. So rather than me babble 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 about Can,
I know.
I
Babble,
know, I'm
babble.
sorry. Let's go into movies that are out right now and
Yeah.
that we can kind of talk a little bit. So Mission Impossible, yes, had its kind of world premiere at Cannes. Tom's been there twice now. With the previous time was with Top Gun with the planes flying over and it was amazing. This time a little bit, how would you? It's a little bit subdued because it was just an orchestra playing Mission Impossible as he walked up the carpet. Nah,
Right.
it's fine, but it's not
Right.
planes, and
It's not F-18s.
it's not, yeah, and the whole thing wasn't shown underwater as it should have been. Whatever, that whole thing, it was a different kind of premiere. And this is the eighth and final air quoting installment of Mission Impossible series and directed by Christopher McQuarrie. He calls him McQ, and so I'm going to call him McQ also. It's their fifth collaboration as director and actor and producer and all that fun stuff. And so, the film's done well, 356 million and counting, and it's there. Um, did you like it?
I was disappointed in it, Stevie. And interestingly, I decided to subject the kids to watching Fallout at the weekend because I just, in my gut, I think the series peaked at Fallout because I loved that film. And rewatching it again, I loved it all over again. And in stark contrast narratively to what I saw. Dead Reckoning as well was a step down from Fallout and then Final down again. And it's a combination of things. Do you know what I think he did so well with Fallout? And again, that was when he really started to market the stunts ahead of putting a film out because it was the whole Halo jump and it was the
Yeah.
amazing motorcycle stunt. It's when he broke his bloody ankle when he was filming in London. But we had a sense that he was open to the fact that he was older now. So he didn't win every fight. He didn't kind of someone else save, people were saving him left, right, and center. And I know that's happened a little bit through it, and it's been all about the team. But for some reason in Final Reckoning, the peril kind of all disappeared. I just thought, hey, obviously he's not going to die. And even though we know he's not going to die, there was something missing about and maybe it was the silliness of it that I couldn't kind of get away from, and it found like connective tissue between all the different stunts, even though they were all amazing. I mean, him hanging onto the wings of that plane. I mean, needless to say, amazing. But dare I say it, Stevie Wong, there was a moment where I just got a teensy weensy little bit bored. Not have a nap bored, but just like it was a little bit too long. If I heard the word the entity one
Oh
more
my
frequently,
God. Yeah, that's a drinking game now. Yeah, exactly.
drinking game. If you drank, you know, I would play a drinking game. I don't know what it was, and also When you hear the word DEF CON in a film, for me, that's the death knell. The minute where, the entire world's going to blow up unless Ethan saves it. I know it's always been an element of that, but it was done in such a cheesy way this time. Look, I think maybe he needed to do some more running, but maybe he's just starting to feel his age. The guy's amazing. What he's done to bring people back to the cinema is amazing. And I was lucky enough to share a camera with Raya on underneath the Eiffel Tower when he premiered Fallout, and then I was in Sydney for Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, and I obviously was on the US Midway when he did the Top Gun Maverick premiere. This dude, he just knows how to nail that kind of marketing with his films, doesn't he? I mean, landing on a helicopter on top of the flight deck, spending 4 hours doing press, and little Kate Wright, the last little reporter on the line, he still manages to stay there and give me a grab or two. The guy knows how to work us, but not in a way that we feel like we've been worked over. And I just think he's driven people back to the cinema. He did it with Maverick, and so I don't know. My gratitude for Tom makes me feel warm towards the film, but it's by no means a cracker, I don't think. What do you think?
I mean, I keep on joking that it's 80% summary and 20% action, and I kind of wish that like there was more action than summary. And so, I get it. 8 movies. You want to kind of celebrate this kind of long history of it, but.
Yeah.
I almost didn't need to have a little bit of those flashbacks. I get it, but it's just like I don't need it. But I was just waiting because all I'd heard from people who did see the film was that there was a submarine sequence, and lo and behold, when that sequence showed up, I was like, oh yeah, this is the kind of film that he does so well. And I mean, it's so amazing. I don't want to spoil it, but it is really just the whole sequence is just it's crazy, and he still is able to give us some magic, and he runs in this film, and he's off a plane, and like all that stuff is still there. But I wasn't as invested as maybe Fallout was. I thought Fallout was the last great film of the mission, and I mean, again, I look forward to seeing what he's doing next. Allegedly, we've got an award contender like later this year, and so he's dropped these action stuff, and he's going to be an actor for the next couple of films, and I look forward to that, and I think that next chapter of Tom is something I can't wait to experience.
100% agree. Isn't he making a film with González Inarritu?
Yes, and that's
Yeah.
the one I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Right. And when I first heard that and then just dived into the interweb, I just thought this, are we going to go back to something like, remember Magnolia? When you
Yes.
really got a sense of, of course the Duke can act. I mean, born on the 4th of July, whatever it might be, we know that. But that Magnolia role was really complex,
Yeah.
and it was a side of him, not just the long hair, that was just like, well, what? And then, he went away and became Ethan Hunt and brought back Maverick, and I get it. So bring it. I
Bring
agree.
it. Speaking of people with long hair, John Wick has long hair, and you do have long hair too. And the lead actress of Ballerina, Ana de Armas, also has long hair. And so I feel this is a perfect segue to go into the upcoming or currently showing or soon to be showing Ballerina, which is the 5th film in the John Wick franchise.
You know how I feel. In fact, I've got to thank you for.
Me? What have I done again?
Well, a million things, but obviously I've done 3 of the John Wick junkets. They've all been in New York, which is, your home turf. And whenever I go there, you take such fabulous care of me. But you dobbed me in to be the adjudicator of the international press conference. Do you remember taking question and answers for the cast for Halle Berry and John Wick and Chad Stahelski, which was terrifying, but also amazing because I got to hang out with those guys after the junket and prep for that. So it was very cool. And you know how much I love these films. And the first time I saw the first one, it didn't even get a cinema release here in New Zealand. So I saw it on the Four Seasons movie in-house hotel thing at some Four Seasons way out of LA for a junket, a Will Smith junket. And I watched and I thought, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And why did New Zealand not get this on the big screen? And then I was obsessed from there on in. So, and I just love Keanu. You know how you can just watch a dude killing people just for 2 hours or another 2 hours? I've watched each of the Wicks over and over, specifically the first and the second one. The Baba Yaga is kind of this character that we've seen, in a million movies, but he just brings a physicality to it. And the first one was so simple. You killed my freaking dog.
Yeah.
You're going to die. And the body count rises, and obviously potentially slightly more ridiculous, but because he's doing it, whether it's right back to the Matrix days, he's bringing all the physicality of how he knows to fight and kill people into this John Wick role. And the stunts are these kind of stunts, the fisty stunts, and the set pieces are amazing. So what we have is a kind of a breakaway from that, as you just said, with Ana de Armas playing the ballerina, and Angelica Houston, kind of tiny little cameos we've had through the John Wick world of her running this ballerina school when she's making little ballerina assassins, and Anna's one of those. I remember when she popped up in James Bond. She wasn't a big role, but she kicked ass.
Yeah.
She had an amazing fight scene. And I don't know if that was her audition that they ended up casting her ballerina, but
I'm sure it was. She was so good in that. Yeah.
She was so good. And I love her in the Rian Johnson film as well, Knives Out. I thought that she has a real kind of gentle tenderness to roles as well. So I was ready for her to kick some ass, and that's exactly what she does in this film. So imagine it's a John Wick, but it's her, and she is wreaking her a wing game, essentially.
Nice.
And not to do with the dead pet, but she's fighting, and she's fighting lots of people. And interestingly, I had a great interview with her, actually, her and Les Wiseman, just on Zoom last week, talking about the physicality of a role like this, but with no kind of spoilers. You know how it became a big thing about how John Wick can kill you with a pencil?
Yeah.
She gets to use all sorts of utensils and weapons in a lot of her a lot of her scenes, but in one of them, it involves the use of an ice skate. And then 15 minutes later, she's using a flamethrower. So two completely different kinds of set pieces involving killing people. And I was kind of into it. John Wick is in it, more than just a cameo, but certainly not in a dominating force. But you do get to see him have a really a pretty good smackdown session. So I think it's a really welcome little chapter in John Wick. I think when he came in, the film immediately went up a notch. And it's not just a familiarity or just the fact that Keanu is almost up there with Pedro Pascal in terms of that kind of his ability to be imbue his life beyond the cinema with kindness, but also there's an element of, you're really drawn to him on camera, and the John Wick character, despite the body count he has, you're just drawn to him. So when he kind of ramps up a bit in this film, so does the film itself. Is it worth the ticket price? 100%.
So my question is there room for double feature now of a ballerina plus a John Wick? Is this world big enough for them and even more? I mean, they're obviously creating a universe. So I'm just curious, like, is this the beginning? I mean, I think this one's going to do well because it looks great. I mean, what it sounds like it's going through all the things that you want in a film like this. And so,
Yeah, and it's going to have that audience as well, and it's R-rated, so you're getting
Nice.
You're getting the buckets of blood that you kind of need, but also proper hardcore fights. I tell you something too that was cool is that the kind of last act of this film is all set in a snowy, picturesque looking village. And it just adds this kind of, even though you can see it all kind of playing out in a choreography way, it's just, there's something really kind of cinematic about it, which I kind of dug. So it's definitely a big screen film. And I'd like to see them make more than one ballerina. And the more John Wick films, the better, in my view. So I dug it.
Hey, so Kate, I want you to tell me a little bit because I want to pick your brain about things on your radar that you feel that like our viewers and listeners should kind of know about. And I know there's a film that you've been a little bit passionate and been following from the beginning. So I'd love for you to tell me about the film Tinā.
Yes, please. And I'm going to give you the perfect lesson on how to pronounce it, and it's Tinā.
Oh, Tinā. Tinā.
Nah, it's a little macron above the A,
Got it.
and it means mother. This is a beautiful story, and the most beautiful story that I can tell about it is that no one really expected it to do as well as it's done. Now, that's not because it's not a great film, because it is. It's also a film where when you're watching it, Stevie, you know it's not the perfect film, but it's the perfect film to sit in the cinema and watch with other people. And when I saw this, we have this amazing theatre here called the Civic. It was packed. It had so much cast and crew. There was this phenomenal someone singing. When it finished, it was like an hour after the film had finished, and we were all in our seats listening to the filmmakers talk, listening to songs, listening to just all the love that was pouring out towards the story, and that it's gone out into the world, and it's still in cinemas making money now. I know it doesn't sound like a huge amount of money, but it's just about to make 6.5 million in New Zealand.
Oh, nice,
Which,
nice.
I mean, it's a lot of money at the New Zealand box office. It's just open in Australia. They've had some screenings as part of LA Screening Week as well, so we're hoping that it will pick up a distributor, because the themes in it are completely universal. It's kind of a story of loss and heartbreak, but it's also set against the backdrop of one of your favorite things, Stevie, which is, song and dance. But in this sense, it's choral singing.
Choir. Yeah.
Anna Pella, who's this phenomenal Kiwi actress, plays the lead role, and she ends up as a choral teacher, as a singing teacher, teaching a choir in a very elite, very white school. And she teaches them how to sing amazing Samoan songs and enter the Big Sing, which is a real choral competition here in New Zealand. So it's set also a little bit against the backdrop of the Christchurch earthquake, but it's a whole lot of coming to terms with grief. It's also about accepting people for who they are. It's also just about the joy of singing in unison. Like, the music is phenomenal, and what they cleverly do, and Miki Mangasiva, who wrote and directed this, what they do is they make sure that all of the songs are sung in their entirety. You know how often
Wow, yeah, that's important.
montage,
Yeah.
or so you really do get to sit back and just enjoy it from that perspective. But it's just going from strength to strength. And the fact that Kiwis are going, there are people that are buying other people tickets. There's been situations where people have bought out whole cinemas. So families who can't afford to go can all go and see it. So it's just brought out the really delicious side of Aotearoa in New Zealand and our very mixed and strong Pacifica culture.
I have a question. Is this film eligible for this year's official
of course
Oscar
it is.
film? Interesting.
Yeah.
And do you have the insight on, like, if this is potentially the one that New Zealand is going to put forward as, like, the film that they're
I would
just
imagine
saying?
so. That's so interesting. I'm doing quite a bit of work with the Film Commission now. I host a podcast, Lights, Camera, Kōrero, and we're having lots of conversations with people involved in the commission, but also filmmakers as well. And of course, with Miki Mangasiva and Biola and also Anna Pella doing lots of press around the film here, Australia, and doing a little bit in the States as well. It could absolutely vary. I can't think of another film yet. So interesting.
Something you should talk to the commission, the film bureau about, and then
Yes, sir.
maybe you can work
Gotta
on
get
that.
onto
Yeah,
it now.
exactly. Add that down to list. Speaking of Oscar stuff,
Yeah.
there was a film that won the Audience Award last TIFF, which was in September. A film called Life of Chuck, and it was one of those movies that, like, had no buzz around it, except for the fact that the director was Mike Flanagan. So if you're a fan of all those, like, horror, like, Netflix series, like, of your Haunting of Hill House and all of he's just a brilliant storyteller that uses horror as, like, the baseline to tell these amazing stories about humanity and grief and all this stuff, religion. I mean, just this guy is just so smart. And so he made a film called The Life of Chuck based on a novella by Stephen King. So you think, all right, this is going to be, it's in his lane. It's a horror film. Exactly. But instead, it's a feel-good movie about this man named Chuck, played by Tom Hiddleston. And the interesting kind of way the film is promoted is basically it's done backwards. So you see him potentially at the end, and then we go back to the beginning. And that's kind of the only way I can kind of describe this film, because in between there's so many magical moments, and it is strangely a feel-good movie, and it just our mutual friend Didi Alush, who is yeah, he has great taste. Sometimes I disagree. But he this film is the one that he's been championing since last September. And this man, he likes genre. He likes so the fact that he loves this movie about the heart and what it can is really quite, it's very surprising. And so when I saw this film, he kept on texting me, "What'd you think? What'd you think?" And I'm like, "No, I really liked it, but I think I need to sit with this." And I wouldn't mind seeing it again, actually, because I kept on watching it, waiting for the trick to happen. Because again, I thought I was walking into a genre movie,
Yeah,
and in
yeah.
fact, I ended up seeing a different film, and I was like, huh, like it's just so confused by it. And but now that but it's left so many wonderful images and feelings that I wouldn't mind going back into this film again and like kind of embracing myself into this world that Mike Flanagan has created. It's a really lovely film. I I feel like the less you know, the better,
Yeah.
which is one of
Okay.
those. But then if it's an Oscar contender, potential Oscar contender for Best Picture,
Yeah.
how are they going to sell a movie
Okay,
where they
I got
don't
it.
want you to know
No,
anything?
no.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I'm curious how the Neon's going to do this. Oh, sorry, it's Neon. Neon's got this, and so they
Another one.
another one, and so I'm very fascinated. They're putting it out this summer, and so
Hmm.
I feel like it's going to be like a sleeper feel good, and
Yeah.
then see how it plays, and it might surprise. I mean, if the box office does well, it can kind of become that story. It's like you have to see
Straight up.
the life of
I
Chuck.
was been what because I'm a Hiddle fan, and they did a little few interviews around it, and they've done a couple of featurettes, and they keep saying the word multitudes. We contain multitudes, and I got that sense that they were trying to tell us something without telling, telling us anything.
And, and
But
I
that I was into it, and
I
Luke Skywalker's in it.
uh,
I'm in. I'm in.
Yeah,
Mark, oh
but
yeah.
I feel like even the word multitudes is giving too much away. I really wish that they would take it out because I feel like yeah, I don't know else to describe it, but
Yeah.
even that scene in particular, it's gorgeous, and I love when that moment happens and you realize a lot more to why this is this beautiful life of Chuck, and so. I don't know. Check it out. I think it's going to be a talker. Like people are going to mention it more and more as the year kind of
Yeah.
progresses and stuff.
Yeah, man. All right.
Um,
Well, it's
but
going to the top of my list if you loved it. And it does sound like the kind of heartwarmer that I would like. Because I don't know what it is. You want something that's trying to tell us who we are, and connect to the humanity of who we are and who other people are in our lives and what they mean to us. And we often look to those people in order to get that meaning sometimes, don't we? So I get a sense that this film feels a little bit like therapy. And I'm always up for films that feel like
but see,
therapy.
this is what I was looking for, and I feel like I projected those feelings onto this movie, and I think it's a bad move if you go
Oh,
into it. That is why I feel like the feel good and the multitudes and all this kind of thing that they're selling as a heartwarming blah 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 is I almost feel like it's a hint of a disservice. Of
okay.
course,
No,
all of
no,
this exists. I'm not telling that it doesn't exist, but
no, no, no.
I feel like
Okay, okay, okay.
if you go in, you're going to be like, okay, okay, like I think that's better. Like I just go
Okay.
in with as clean of a slate as you possibly can, and I think the
Yeah.
film will give you even greater gifts at the end of the experience. So that's
All right.
kind of
Okay, Uncle Stevie.
I know.
I'll do what you're
Don't
telling
watch it
me.
like this. Yeah, totally.
Uncle Stevie. Hey, I've been going out to so much cinema because we've got the French Film Festival on.
Yeah, oui.
My
How is it?
patron and my
Yeah,
patron Didier would be so impressed with my.
oui.
Stop speaking in a French accent, but I've been watching a lot of great French film. But I tell you what, the weather is absolutely shite here, and winter is. We've had the first, yeah, it feels like winter in Aotearoa, so I am sort of turning into hibernation mode, and I have been binging so much television. It's like kind of insane. Max and you know so well, my boy Max, he and I've been started watching Lost. Can you believe it?
Oh my.
I never watched Lost. So we've finished getting Stranger Things up. He's finished watching Cobra Kai. And now we're doing 2 episodes of Lost a night. And I really dig it. Oh, don't judge me, but just throwing it out there.
Not judging at all. Lost was one of my favorite shows it's one of those shows that like I know I should kind of watch again because obviously there's so much to it, but I almost don't want to see it again because my experience was so fresh every
Yeah.
episode. And so I don't. I'm curious what because you've never watched it, so you don't know how this
Never.
ends. You don't
No,
know.
no, no, no,
Okay,
no. All
all
I
right.
know is that everyone bitched about the ending. So I was kind of
Yes,
gonna sit through 6 seasons of this and then it's gonna give me a full bitch slap. I don't know.
I didn't mind the ending, and so that's kind of the difference between some of us. And so people wanted
Great.
a very clean ending, and so and they
I
didn't
get
get one,
it.
and I expected it. How do you end something 6 seasons with so
Yeah.
much lore and like I mean just so it just like things fold into itself, plot into it's there's no way. Speaking of endings.
Yeah, oh my God, we've had a couple of cracking endings. Holy
Yeah.
cow.
So
I
so we've had
yeah,
finales, Last of Us happened, The Studio,
yeah.
which is a different kind of ending, and all that. But the one there was a series ending, Mobland. Oh my God, that just ended recently, and I'm just like, I don't know if you've watched that yet, but oh my
No,
God. We'll talk about that next time.
yeah.
But there's a series finale of a show that's 6 seasons. 66 episode that they're sticking with the number six, and it's called The Handmaid's Tale, which is showing in the US on Hulu, and I don't know where it's showing internationally, but it's definitely like a
Yeah.
global phenomenon that exists. How did you feel the way it ended? Were you happy with the
Oh,
ending?
I've read the books, I've read Testament. Elizabeth Moss has taken this character in the show to a place that became, for me, appointment viewing. I could only ever do one ep at a time, even if when the whole series was up, because they've been so intense. I feel they've become less so just because the scope of the story obviously grew. But if you think about that first season and the second season, absolutely horrifically
Yeah,
harrowing, and for good reason. We're dealing with rape. We're dealing with just the most horrific way that women within a society can be treated. And now we've got the sixth season. And everybody jokes about it. Not that it's remotely funny, but is it a live stream out of the States? I mean, it's become in that time. It's the reality of what is happening to marginalized communities around the world, and particularly in the States. And not that women are a marginalized community, but it's certainly been an horrific 18 months to 2 years when it's come to women's rights. So watching a show that is steeped in all of that becomes sort of some people have switched it off because they just don't. They're living it on their on their phones on the BBC and on Fox News every day. So why do they need to watch it in their downtime? But I was always going to want to get to watch all the way through to the end, just purely from a storytelling point of
yeah.
view. This last season's been a letdown for me. I know there were lots of jokes going around about how it would take an entire episode for Joan to manage to smuggle her way in and out of Gilead, and now she just walks across the bridge and she's there. And I get it, and there's a pace, and we're speeding up, and again, it's the magnitude of it all. But I just didn't find each episode was the most gripping television that I can remember it being. But it was still just a really satisfying way to end the season. I'm not the kind of person that, I guess if I've invested all of this time in a story, it's the finale has to be absolutely diabolically shit for me to really, really hate on it.
Yeah.
So of course not. Was it one of those really memorable finales of a TV show? Wasn't for me. But just to bring it all and to tie this part of what's become a big part of my I don't know what you call it really, but it's almost like your DNA when you get to know characters
Yeah. Yeah.
and the love triangle and all the different ways of the characters and what they have to sacrifice. Oh my God. And it's kind of, you can't imagine, you can't. I am one of those people that I put myself in those situations all the time, not realistically. I mean, when I'm watching it, I wonder,
Yeah.
would I be doing what she's doing? Could I be doing what he's doing? So each time it can be kind of traumatic viewing, but I think it's really kind of vital viewing as well.
Well, I think it also it's always it's the reminder of how bad things can be, and just by watching it, it's almost like we take on the responsibility of making sure that this hopefully will not happen to those around us in the future. And a lot of people didn't watch him. So I'm telling you that then, but like it's just
Yeah,
but
sure.
but I think what I liked about it, I agree. There were certain some episodes felt like they were just dragging on. It shouldn't. I don't know if it should have been 8 episodes. It could have been a truncated like 6. Like it just they could have done really
Yeah.
packed it in that way. And but I did appreciate the final sequence, which is her returning back to
Yeah.
this home. And I don't recall, but is this the first sentence of of the series? Like, because it was always a memoir that she was like reciting in the
Yeah.
beginning, right? And so
That's
we
not the first bit of the testaments, but I could have that wrong. I should have Googled it straight away.
Yeah, but
Um,
it does feel like it's a full circle moment in terms
yeah.
of her storyline. Again, it didn't end up completely because the whole thing was her trying to meet her daughter again, or and
Yeah.
that and obviously we now have a new series called The Testament, which already spoilers it exists with the daughters heavily featured in it, and she's a little bit older, and so there's a lot more. There's a lot of that going on. So I kind of knew that this wasn't going to be the end end. It was just going to be like an end for now, and so
Yeah. I
um,
get it. I get it.
it's
And yeah.
it's fine. Again, it's not the best finale, but I'm glad that I went through this Handmaid's Tale experience,
Yeah.
and it is. As a TV series, it is still for a period of time was one of the best things that were out there that was out there, and just
I
it was
know.
amazing. And so yeah, sure, like I just don't know how to. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. So I'm okay. I'm okay with how this ended. And
Same, same.
speaking of a show that potentially might not be coming back anymore, Andor season 2 of Disney Plus. Like, did you always know that this was going to be a two and done like series?
Yeah,
I
well, yeah, because you know that it's going to go right from the beginning. Tony Gilroy said this was going to lead literally up to the opening frame of Rogue One, and we all know how Rogue One ended. So,
yeah,
and then I think that's what's been so intoxicating. If it wasn't for the fact that it's by far and away the best writing of any Star Wars that's ever been written, and better writing than just a
a lot of
sway
TV shows.
other
Yeah.
content out there. And it's been a lot of talk about the fact that this is the show that I could sit here and we could talk about Andor with no reference to the fact that it's in the Star Wars canon, that
Hmm.
it's anything to do with lightsabers and the light of the dark side of the Force or the Sith or anything. We could have a conversation purely around the fact that it's a story of rebellion and revolution, and to have such perfectly told and encapsulated episodes where even some of them it was just like, how does this where does this connect, and then all the strands come together in ways that are so brilliant. And the we're speaking earlier of Stellan Skarsgård, there is one of his early monologues about what he sacrifices as a covert leader of the rebellion. And it's just like, I remember just sitting back and I had to push stop. And I could feel the goosebumps. It was, again, so phenomenally delivered by such a class act. But it was just, I thought, who wrote this? And also, you can see how many millions Tony Gilroy had to spend on production design to
Yeah.
really
Oh my gosh.
to bring us this world of Andor. And season 2 just took that to the next level. And I think Mon Mothma taking center stage, you got a real sense of what it took for her, what sacrifices she was going to have to make, just the peril she was in to lead a double life. It was just kind of amazing. I was every single episode I watched, and I did it. They're so clever, Stevie, weren't they? Putting it in threes and threes and threes. So it felt like a feature film if you wanted to
Oh,
watch it.
nice. Yeah.
So, and then I knew I wanted to save the last 3, and I had to build in 2 hours at the end because I wanted to be able to go straight into Rogue One. And then if you're a total hardcore, you would go from Rogue One straight into A New Hope, because again, that last scene of Rogue One is the first scene of A New Hope. So, and then we're fully into Star Wars lore. But I don't know, Diego Luna, his character of Cassian, we didn't have as much empathy for him in Rogue One as a standalone, and rewatching it, knowing everything that had gone on leading up to that was just like absolute, everything about that just it just, for me, it's been my standout TV for the year. And I know it's only June, we're halfway through, but and just such a revelation as a Star Wars fan to know that we're being delivered quality like this,
But I think it's such a strange thing because everybody's been saying this is the best written show of the Star Wars kind of
Yeah,
and any of the franchises. So moving forward, like,
I know.
how do you go from the here? Because to be very honest, listen, the only reason I'm letting you talk all about Andor because I stopped watching. I
I know,
couldn't.
I know.
There's a lot of these shows that I started watching, and I'm like, I don't like these. Like, I'm a little bit bored, and and also my relationship with Star Wars kind of ended like early, and then and so it was like I felt a little bit like doing homework, and I know Andor is like great TV, but because of my already kind of relationships with the previous series,
Yeah. No, no,
I'm
no, no,
just
no. Come over,
like
come over to
yeah,
Andor.
but I'm like, great. I'm gonna watch these two amazing seasons, and then what? Do we go back to like the crap? Like, I just can't. I don't know if I
You don't
want to
have
put
to.
my.
You don't have to watch another Star Wars again. And I think that's what I've said a lot about this show. You don't. You're not going to suddenly. You can do Rogue One anyway, which is
Yeah,
a standalone film. Is it's. But when it first came out, it was just like, what the hell is this?
yeah,
How can you gift us all these characters and then kill them at the end?
yeah,
Spoiler alert. I
yeah.
mean, that is ballsy
That's
and stuff.
crazy. Yeah,
And I know JJ, we dibble dabble in losing some pretty iconic characters through the new films as well. But all I'd say, Stevie, is you don't have to.
okay.
You have to watch. You don't have to do the next TV show. You don't have to watch the next Mandalorian movie. You don't have to. I would just watch Andor
Yeah, okay.
and
Yeah,
thank me later.
yeah. No, I will. I think I'm gonna do that. I've got some time this summer, like, because I've already gone through 6 episodes, including screeners that I'm not allowed to talk about of a certain series called "And Just Like That."
Oh my goodness. Okay. You're going to dive into what I know you're going to feel the same way. How conflicting this show is because we all love to say we hate watch this show, but I feel like I do. And I'm almost like, I'm not clicking play. I'm not clicking play. Oh God. Okay. I'll click play. And then you know what? Probably quite enjoyed that first episode.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
yeah.
And it wasn't cringy. There's been some horrifically cringy moments in these shows. Also, I'm in for New York. All I do is think about all our great times in New York. And
Yeah.
what I loved about that first episode, which I don't think I've genuinely seen SJP look like she's genuinely losing her mind laughing when she was talking about the dates that Paul Miranda was going on Times Square and
Yeah.
the M&M factory and all these really lame places in New York. And all I could think of was you, as I thought if I'd suggested any of those
Like
places.
if you said Tavern on the Green, if you were like, hey, let's go watch a musical called Wicked with not the original cast, but like the current ones with like no one's ever, and I'm just like, no, I will meet you later. All good.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Like,
I know, I knew you would relate to that hard hours. I found that very, very funny.
yeah.
But her house, just purely from a New York house porn situation, and I'm always ridiculous hats this episode, but I'm still there for pretty
I
much
took a
everything.
screen grab. I took a screen grab of the hat that she wore, which looked like some bizarre, like chef's thing that like went burr, burr. Like it was like I don't know what was. I took a photo. I sent it to my friend who's a stylist. I'm like, what the hell is this on her head? And I was like, this is crazy. She's got crazy hats this season, by the way. I just want you
Yeah.
to know this is not the
Okay.
last
So have
of
you
her.
done six? Have you done six?
Yes, I've done
Okay.
6.
So thought, okay, just generally, do I stay watching or is it
Well,
better?
okay, this is what I can say, and this happens every time too. You begin by pressing and hate watching the series because it just whatever reason it just is not. It's not Sex and the City, and I'm not even sure I want to see Sex and the City anymore. I feel like it's
No, no, no,
dated.
that's David
It's
gone.
yeah, it's so I don't know why, but it's like, well, I know these people. There's there, blah, and so we still have Charlotte over compensating with whatever issues that she has. I mean, everybody's still got their neuroses, and they've got new characters with their new neuroses, and I'm like, great. Now it's like 6 women who are all crazy, and I'm just like, cool, 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 cool. 5, sorry, 5 ladies,
Right there.
and but. I would say that like as the series this season as it progresses, things get a
Yeah.
little bit more realistic. Her relationship with
Say
Adrian,
realistic and just like that in the same sentence.
I know, right? But her relationship with Adrian feels more real and kind of adult than I've ever
Okay.
seen her in a relationship before. And I don't know. There's something that big happens that like is
Big.
very real. And so I don't want to spoil it, but I think
Okay.
it's kind of interesting to see how the rest of the women kind of deal with it, and it's realistic. It's just, again, adults dealing with bad news, and like how do they deal with it? And I just think that's maybe we're hitting a turning point. There's even an inside joke about hate watching a show, which I thought was really smart on their end to kind of like.
Oh, that is smart.
So cool. They know what they are.
Yeah.
Is it the best show out there? I mean, it's just like that. Like it's just one of those shows where like, all right. And the way they dole them out once a week. So if it's out there, then I guess watch it. And
Yeah.
you can have your comments and you can hate watch it, but you're watching it. I think that's kind of
you're at the watering hole. You are absolutely
it's
right.
just that show where you're just like, well, it's there. Let me just check it out. And it is New York, and it's best.
Oh my God, I know, and I miss New York so much. It's been far too long, and I that's what I'm loving about it. I just feel like I'm spending a bit of a weekend there, which makes me happy. Hey, as much as I know you would like to continue talking about this show,
We've got some quick ones too. Let's talk about Department Q.
Quick one. So you know how much I love slow horses. When you told me to dive into Department Q on Netflix, which just again, like they do, they just kind of dump a show like Adolescence, and then I feel like there's this dump a show like The Queen's Gambit, and it's the same guys, the Queen's Gambit guys. Doing a show with Matthew Good in the lead role. And I did back-to-back episodes last night, as instructed by you, Stevie. And I'm completely hooked. I love Matthew Good with facial hair looking grumpy because he always looks so clean cut.
Yeah.
I've loved him in so many things over the years, dating back to A Single Man. There's just something about him, but he's always, I suppose it's the Downton and the Crown thing. He's very clean cut. This is not the Matthew Good we know.
No, and I love it. I love that he's like dirty and he's mean and he's kind of like, but and obviously he's enjoying being the headline. It's a proper headliner, and it's so good to see him like lead a show like this and a little bit different, but yet he's still attractive. That sweater that he wears, I can't stop staring at this blue sweater. It's like fuzzy, and I'm like, I want one of those. And
it is such a you thing to take away from it.
I know. All I want is the sweater. Okay, personally. Yes. Because it's adapted from this Danish crime novelist Jussi Adler-Olsen. So it's got that Nordic kind of crime feel.
But it's set in Edinburgh though.
It's set in Edinburgh because so it's like that perfect mashup of like Nordic crime meets British country crime meets whatever that thing is, and the pacing for me is just a hint slow, but I know that the payoff is going to be quite good because obviously this underlying storyline that exists throughout the whole season, I think, is very compelling, and you want to know how this plays out. It also helps that like he's got this group of assistants or other that's helping him out. It's like an interesting group of crime kind of fighters, if you will, and they're dealing with cold cases. That's kind of the thing why Department Q exists in the first place. It's like they're
it's a great idea, and I think maybe that's where I get the slow horses thing because it's kind of misfits.
Yes.
To the basement or to Slough House to do their own thing, and I don't know, I'm into it, and the fact there's something like 10 books in this series they'll keep churning Department Q out if Netflix,
and we're not the only ones that like it. Obviously, it's done really well this opening weekend, and it's just I just have a feeling that there's going to be a lot more of this. And so, Department Q, if it's not on your radar, you should definitely check it out. Another show that should be on your radar, which is on Disney Plus and Hulu in the United States, is a Korean crime series called Nine Puzzles.
And you talk me through this because I reckon I'd be hard out into this show.
I think it's very you. This is another crime series. Basically, currently, it's now the most watched Korean title globally of the year, so that's a good thing. So people are also enjoying this. It is also slow in pace, so maybe you'll like it even more because I'm just like, hurry up, guys, hurry, slow burn, stop it. But the basic plot is this: it starts off with this young high school girl who comes home from school, goes home, and then sees her uncle like stabbed in the back of the neck, and she's like, what? And then right next to his body is a puzzle piece. And then so the detective of the case, he's kind of weirdly convinced that she might have done the murder, but there's no evidence. We fast forward 10 years. She's now a criminal, like kind of profiler, and she's obsessed with solving crimes also and sees all these things. Weirdly, new murders are happening with puzzle pieces attached to the bodies, and she just happens to be at the scene of these crimes. So the same criminal investigator's like, are you a serial killer? Like, what is going on? And she's like, I don't think I am, but I don't know. And so is somebody playing a really messed up, like long game to try to make her go crazy? Is she psychotic? That's kind of the two. So it's these two people trying to solve this crime, but one of them potentially could be the serial killer. It's pretty fun. And I would
Okay.
say you should give it a go because Koreans do crime very nicely too. And so this might be a really fun one for you. And also it's different from what's out there. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's
I'm
always
into
nice.
it. I'll do some digging around and see where we can watch it. We usually get Hulu on Neon New Zealand, so that's where most of the if it is on Hulu in the States, then it's usually on
It should
Neon.
be Disney Plus globally. So I would say that
Oh,
you should go
interesting.
check it out on Disney because that's where all the Korean stuff usually go to. So I would say, check it out. I mean, it's out there and it's doing well. So obviously, it's something. If you want another type of crime series, if you're done with Department Q. So I know so many people have already binged it already. They're done. So if you
Yeah.
need another one right now, go to Nine
Yeah.
Puzzles. I think that's
All
like
right,
a good.
I'm gonna do that. It's
Um,
interesting because I was going to act, not with idea, but I always say this. I am going to axe my Netflix, and then all of a sudden I've got Department Q, and then I'm doing 5 seasons of Sirens. We don't have
yeah,
time to do
which
that,
is
but
so
I
good. Yeah.
loved it so
Yeah.
much. And it was a
There's a whole
very,
bunch
very
of great. There's a bunch of Sirens is really good. If you're not watching it, check it out. I don't know if you've seen this comedy called Overcompensating on Prime Video. Holy cow,
trailers. It looks good.
so good. Then on Disney Plus is another like 20 somethings like not living their best life. It's called Adults. It's
Yeah.
weirdly, I feel like Overcompensating and adults are like they should be like paired up as
Same
like
thing.
yeah, it's the same thing but different group of idiots. And so it's like my perfect. I love that kind of stuff, and it's really kicked off my summer because it just makes me giggle. Like those shows are positive. So if you want a bit of comedy, like maybe
Yeah.
those are the things that you
Hey,
should pick
you've
up.
reminded me if you want some comedy and going back, not being your leather daddy, but Alexander Skarsgård's and Murderbot and
Yes.
on Apple, and I'm really, really, really digging it. I've Tor Fraser, who did Deadlands, New Zealand director. I've spoken to him to you about him over the years, and also Roseanne Liang, who did Shadow in the Cloud. They're directing this show, sharing episodes, and Tor is executive director of it. And I'm just enjoying it. I'm liking listening to more of Alexander Skarsgård's voice because he
Yeah.
has a lot of monologue with Murderbot. So that's another one if you want a bit of comedy
There
in a fun
again,
way.
there's so much out there, and I feel like we've really packed it in by telling you like the best of
I
the
think
best.
we
We are kind
have.
of crazy, and you know what? As a first episode, I am psyched that like I had you to kind of co-guide us through this crazy period of time. There's a lot, and I'd love for you to come back again in the near future, and like we could
You
do
know
this
where I live,
again.
Stevie.
I
You know
do,
where I live.
I do know where you live,
Slept on
and
this very
yeah,
sofa. That's how
yeah.
well you know where I
That's
live.
how well I know this place. I love you. I think it's so cool that you said yes, and I hope this inspires you to do your own podcast. I'm just going to say that right now. So
Mhm.
that's kind of
Mhm.
and read the Projector every week. Our Lady Kate tells us about her favorite things. So she does this for a living, and it's like and then she's also on television over there, and it's awesome. So it's a real thank you for coming on to this,
Well,
and
back at you and to all your fabulous viewers that are tuning in for your Substack as well for
thank you.
AAPI. So thank you. Love you dearly. Mwah.
Love you too. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.